Tonight we are featuring play in schools, and we're also doing a play in the arts. And we were fortunate to receive 2 great case studies from each of those examples to be able to showcase. And tonight we're going to be hearing from Anna from Portugal and also Cherie from Scotland in regards to play in schools. And we'll hear both of their experiences and their stories and their presentations, and then we'll have a bit of a conversation. So feel free to sort of make comments, questions that we'll try and facilitate, and I'll sort of ask those questions unless you feel comfortable to do so. And we can have a conversation about that before we move on to play and the arts, which we will be featuring Virginia and Ruby from Lickety Split in Scotland, and Nicole, Deepti and Mandovi and Aliyah from Appalam Chappalam in India, and they can tell you about that name as well. Well, it was the interesting part of Lickety Split, Appalam Chappalam. Neither of them actually sort of make any sense. So it's good to know that we've kept a theme going there. So, and then we'll have another discussion around the work that they undertook, and once again, taking your questions whenever we can. So it's a very relaxed, informal get together, which is how we want these webinars to be. We want people to feel included and be able to sort of, explore ideas as well, as much as we can when we've got so many people coming online with us. But it's absolutely fantastic. And I'd also like to acknowledge, as we start, we have the playwright team who are giving up their time to actually support these webinars. And so my special thanks to, of course, Kathy and her team of Heidi, Sum and Roy, who are online. And if we have any technical issues, Heidi is waving. Heidi. Wave, Heidi. Roy, where are you? If you have any technical issues, they will be there to support us. So thank you so much to Playwright Hong Kong for that support in getting these organised. Okay, as we start tonight, we're all aware that some of you are in lockdown, and so our thoughts are certainly with you and with your families at this time. For many of us, this has been a really difficult year, and doesn't look like it's necessarily going to get easier as we go. But the fact that we have continued to be advocates, and particularly for those of you who are in really difficult situations have continued to advocate for children, has been amazing. Say they're all really play heroes, those people who are continuing to champion this when you've got quite a few different conditions impacting on you. I know my New Zealand colleagues and our Australian colleagues, we feel that we have only been slightly scathed by this, but we know some countries have obviously been affected far more deeply than others. And it's tonight that we think about the fact that we currently have over 2.5 million people who have died from this pandemic. And our thoughts are certainly with those and their families who are a part of that, and have been experiencing obviously great pain as a result. So the work that has been done by the members of IPA is so critical at this particular time. Already IPA has produced some resources on play at times of crisis, and now we have a resource for parents and carers that's available, and it's actually available now. It's just gone to 7 languages. We have it in 6 languages on our website for free, but Italy has just done a translation, and we're really indebted. Once again, it's a sign of true member effort that most of those translations were done by members working and getting that organised. So it really is a big effort from all of our members to create such a wonderful resource with so many translations and freely available. So please share it on any of your site or websites, any access, as it's an excellent resource that people can access. The other thing to be aware of is that we've also done some research that was done with Tim Gill, and there's a paper on our website as well that you can access if you're looking for some further evidence or some work to springboard off to take to government or any other local government areas. So without further ado, I think it's probably, we've got most people on tonight, and I didn't have to start singing. So we're at 59 participants now, which is pretty good when 140 registered. And whenever it's free, you know that sometimes people don't manage to make it. So we will get started. And it's my pleasure to actually start off with Portugal. So we're doing a bit of the world round. We're sticking in Scotland. You'll see these webinars have a very big theme around Scotland. Scotland is doing obviously some amazing work. So two of our presenters this evening are actually Scottish examples, and you'll see that everywhere. So a little bit of pat on the back, Scotland. You've got so many advocates there really leading the way. But tonight we'll start off with Portugal, and Anna is going to present to us on Scola Ludens, and I don't know whether I presented that correctly, but Anna, you can do so for me. So Anna, please. Great. I'm handing over to you.
Thank you so much. I will just share my screen. And you said it right, Robin. So it's not the theme that we have in Portuguese, but in English it sounded better. So hi, everyone. My name is Anna, and I work for the Child Support Institute, who is an NGO committed to the promotion of children's rights globally. But we have several departments, and one of them in which I work is committed to the right to play. I'm sorry, but I have a bit of a cough. The thing about the project that I'm showing you is that it began pre-pandemic. So we in September of 2019, we started this project, and the things that were going on our minds, Portuguese children spend many time in schools. So if there are so many hours each day, are they getting their right to play possible in that setting? How are play spaces in schools? And if schools are play friendly? And also one thing that we realized, that if you want to advocate for play, you need to work with the adults also. So to them to remind of their play history, and allow children to get aware of spontaneously the way they play. So this was in our mind in 2019, before COVID came, and we started working. Oh, it isn't? Okay. Oh, sorry. Yeah. And we started working with 11 schools in Lisbon, in parishes that had many children. And this was the initial plan. So we did an evaluation where my team went and go to see the play spaces. We wanted children to participate all along. So we did focus group with children, and we did surveys on how they felt play was in place in their schools. And then the intervention part, what we aimed to do was to paint floor games, make indoor vinyl games also, and to make available play material and play sessions where my team will work with children and also with professionals. And then the final evaluation. And in this section, you begin to know, to see that we did the same service to see how the context changed or not. But we began to realize that this project, the way we changed it a bit, that I will share with you in the next few minutes, had also an added value on pandemic management. So what did we saw in the play spaces in schools? So schools' playgrounds are very typical and not diversified. We are talking about schools that have those playground structures that limit a bit play activity for children. Also, natural elements and loose parts are not a reality in Portuguese schools. Indoor play spaces are a big issue since they are inexistent or poorly available. And the interaction with the adults, so with the teachers or schools, other school professionals, is mainly by adults supervisioning the recess and the play activity, and not regarding engagement and relationship through play. And what did children told us? Well, I always say this because they are very imaginative. So they asked, when we asked for what do you want in your school for play, they asked for water parks and roller coasters. And it's very healthy that they have these ideas, but they also helped us to get our feet on the ground, and with slight changes that were incorporated in intervention plans. They said that they would like more material, more access to loose parts and to natural elements. And these were the things that scored the worst in the surveys also. For professionals, it was almost the same thing. So professionals are aware that we need to change the play opportunities in schools, but they are also overwhelmed with so many things regarding learning that play is beginning to or continues to be on second place. Regarding families, because we also asked parents what they knew about play in their children's schools, families don't really know what's happening regarding play. Most of them said to us that they didn't realize if there are play material or paintings on the floor. So families are not engaged in school mostly to see how learning is going, but not things about play. So, as I told you, it was all coming really well. We had our project up and running until March of 2020. We had 2 schools interventionists in March. And when COVID struck, we all around the world felt a bit overwhelmed. And this project was stopped for around 6 months. But we were really sure that it could make a difference when children returned to school. So children in Portugal went home in March, and then they stayed at home and only returned to school in September. So what my team thought was, let's see what we know that will happen in September and do slight changes in the project so that when children are able to return to school in September, they will have their right to play preserved. So alongside with the promotion of play opportunities, that is our main goal, in pandemic, our project thought is it play seen a priority for this moment? We're just talking about it previously. In Portugal, what we saw regarding also the guidelines that the government stated, there are many concerns about learning for children not to lose learn opportunities, but most people are not aware that they also need to play, so to recover and as a way of resilience. So children are in school, overwhelmed with schoolwork and without time to play. So this was one of our main concerns, to keep play on the agenda in schools in pandemic moments. And also we needed to support professionals to continue to provide play opportunities alongside with the sanitary obligations that I will talk in a bit. So what we knew that children will face in September. So children are organized in bubbles in Portugal. So the school space is not freely explored. So children are on space A, and then the next week or so, they are in space B. So they are really limited on the area they have to play. The use of any play material were very discussed because of the fear of COVID. So we needed to help schools provide material. And also there are not human resources enough in schools. And it happened also previously to the pandemic, but nowadays the school professionals have so many sanitary little things to do that the engagement with children and the support for children to play comes on the second place also. So what we faced as a team is we had really deep knowledge about how are the spaces organized in schools. So we draw playstations with different games to improve the number of play opportunities, even if they are restricted to a specific space. So we had the playstations organized also to provide different stimulus. So we didn't have the same game over and over and over again, but we did different games to provide different ways of exploration. And you can see in this little video, you saw the circles open. We did the paintings the more open that we could, so that children engage with them freely and can work on the playstations how they like. Then we also added, this is a hopscotch, the very traditional thing in Portugal and around the world, I believe. And also we realized that, and it was lucky, well, honestly, the thing that we intended to do the intervention had no sanitary constraints. So you don't have problems with hygiene with games on the floor or paintings. You can see here on the left, picture on the left, you see a twister. This is the only game that we stopped doing in pandemic, since it implies contact with children, but it was a big hit for children. But now we had we were very careful to have the distance from the children. So this is one of the ones that we left. And also we did give kits to schools that could be used like many toy libraries are doing. You have a kit for a specific bubble, you use it in its bubble, and then you keep it, quarantine it, and put available once again. But what we saw is that adults are very afraid to use material. So let me just say that, and we handle out hula hoops, chalk, marble trail. So we did board games, and material that children could use indoor and outdoor. But what we saw is most schools kept it in the closet, and we needed to raise awareness and help professionals to be open to the use of material. What we saw in many schools, not only on these 11 ones, is that children are on the recess with nothing to do. In our schools, they have the floor games, so this is an extra, but in most schools, there isn't this kind of thing. So children began to feel more agitated, more conflictuous. So this is a matter that we need to address in further projects. So what we want children to play freely. And if you look on the image on the left, it is an hopscotch also, but we don't have the numbers on it. So children can use it whatever they like. If they want to do like a board game with that painting, they can do it. If they want to use it regarding the colors, they can do it. So this idea of free play, and to allow children to transform the playstations, adding natural elements or play material that is available, was very important to us. We also were very lucky because these schools, well, we did a good job, honestly. The professionals do have awareness of the importance of right to play. So they opened their school to us in a time where in Portugal, most schools closed its door to any professional from the outside. So we were able to do play sessions with children and to talk with children and see how they reacted to the intervention that we made in September, and mostly to see how they use the PlayStation. So we learned a lot about how children create games and play around things. I can give you an example. We handed out elastics. I'm not sure if it is, but it's it's like a skipping rope, big one, that's for jumping. And in this school that you have there, when we realized they were doing a large train of children along the playground. So they transform and appropriate themselves of the play in ways that we cannot imagine. We also helped to professionals to see in these training sessions how they could interact with children, and also professionals' playfulness. And we are also very concerned in Portugal about the professionals' well-being, because this COVID situation is very demanding on professionals. So we need to also address professionals' playfulness, how are they feeling, because it's key for them to allow play in schools. So this is some of the feedback that we had. So from school coordinators, I will only read my favorite, that even without adults' intervention, children play on their own initiative. So the intrinsic play that was promoted with this project, that is something that is very crucial to us. So what we are doing now, thankfully, is that we have requests from parents and from other schools on how to keep and improve play opportunities in pandemic. What allows us to say that this project that didn't start it as pandemic promotion is now useful in this moment. Is useful, replicable, and it has something to say on COVID management in schools. So now the project is now assuming a form of consulting and support. And we have schools from north to south of Portugal wanted to work with us. It's like we said previously, Zoom allows us to be closer to schools. So we give them the instruments, the tools, the intervention plans, and we work on remote, but keep doing the project with schools. So to sum up, this project improved play spaces in primary schools, mainly outdoors, promoted children's participation, raised awareness among professionals, promoted the right to play in pandemic, contributed to spaces management in pandemic, and can be replicated in other settings. We are also finishing studying the impact on children's health, but we are sure that it improved children's and professionals' well-being. But there are still challenges that need to be addressed. So in Portugal, well, at the moment, schools are closed and we will begin, well, we're not sure what will happen. Some people say that the little ones will go back to school, but we are not sure. For the moment, they are closed. But when they were open, there were restrictions in the play spaces in schools on this exploration that children need so much. Material is a big issue because people are afraid of using it. Restrictions on peer contact, since the bubbles do not mix each other. So if you have very good friends on another bubble, it's like you lose something. We had unexpected breaks, either by governments, as we are facing now, or schools that were closed when they identified diseases. Professionals are clearly unexpectedly in burnout, and we are having also lack of human resources. But when you have challenges, you have opportunities. And with these kinds of projects, you can put in place new dynamics. So floor games, traditional play, recover some play legacy that was not a reality in schools' playgrounds anymore. So you can put new materials that do not have sanitary issues on the spotlight, so like natural elements and loose parts. If you continue to do training and raising awareness, you'll have schools that are more open to allow children to play. And mostly, you can have a new look on the role play spaces and outdoor play can have. And I will finish with this sentence from one of our founders, Natalia Paes, from the Child Support Institute. And she always said to us, we need to learn outdoor and play in the classroom. So improving play opportunities continues to be our focus, but we are aware that providing them in pandemic is not the same as we did previously. So the fear and uncertainty makes us to have a step backwards on this play advocacy, but we need to keep saying that play is also a matter of health for children, adults, and the whole community nowadays. So this is our contact. Feel free to contact us if you need anything else. And thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Anna. That was actually, it's quite interesting to think about when listening to that, about the fact that, you know, through COVID, we seem to have the resources that you've done seem to be a bit of a legacy. And maybe, as they may still be there well past COVID, it might become just part of the school community to have those sorts of games on the floor and that sort of interaction. So it'd be interesting to have that discussion after we hear from Play Scotland. The other thing that struck me was how important it was to have that consultation with children, and also the fact that you've drawn attention to playfulness of the educators. And I think that certainly is something people might want to discuss a little bit more about following the next presentation. So I'd like to hand over to Cherie Morgan from Play Scotland, who is going to present to us on a project that Play Scotland has done with Scrap Antics. That was the group you did it with, Cherie?
Yep, that's right, yes.
So I will hand back to you. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to speak today, and I'm going to speak about the project that we did, and it's really interesting to hear some of the same sort of issues that we had sort of reflected in the presentation that was there. Just a bit about Scotland's policy context. We do have a national play strategy. It's currently under review and fresh because it was written back in 2013, but we've got lots of supporting legislation and guidance in Scotland that does seem to be supporting and sort of working towards supporting the child's right to play, not least, of course, the incorporation of the UNCRC into Scots law that we hope will be fulfilled this year. There have been delays to that given the situation with COVID. I think everybody's work has sort of ground to a slow pace rather than what it was expected to be, but we are expecting that to go through this year. And Play Scotland is a national organisation is part of a lot of these initiatives and taking policy forward. So it's really interesting to see how the rest of the world is working forward in time of the pandemic. Key areas of work that we've been involved in just over the 2020. I think we were the same. We were all going on our own business. My job was actually working in local authorities, lots of travelling about, lots of meetings with people. And in March, that all came to an end. The officers that I've been working with on local policies and strategies, they were pulled in to do sort of response work. They weren't doing the play policy strategy work anymore. And so our work changed as well. So we had to support our sector. So we were very involved in writing the guidelines, supporting the writing of the guidance for the sector, but writing our own guidelines for unregulated informal play services. And it was a real struggle for play services to actually find out what they were allowed to do and how many children they were allowed to work with and where they were allowed to work and the equipment that they were allowed to use. So we knew that it was so important to get children outside. You know, I won't go on about play. We all know why play is so important. We have in the UK the Play Builds Children statement, which really says it all about how play is so important for children. And we were already concerned about children being sedentary. and then came COVID. And so the first thing we did is we put out a survey to practitioners who told us about how concerned they were, and primarily it was about children's mental health and about how in the initial lockdown schools were closed, quickly without warning. There was lots of services closed, direct play services, a lot of them didn't provide a service in that initial time. And there was a lot of concern about children's mental health. Also the concerns around practitioners' health, the ones that were working in the hubs that had remained open for key worker children and for vulnerable children, about their mental health and about how they were sort of concerned about their own safety and their own family's safety because they were going out to work. So, we'd already been thinking children weren't getting out a lot, and now came along COVID, and yes, children really weren't getting out. In Scotland, we were fortunate. We were able to protect the play for the most part of children and young people, but certainly for children under 12. And we're currently, even in this current lockdown, children under 12 can play with their friends. And the First Minister actually said it in our statement, they can play with their friends, outdoors, and that hasn't been stopped. So we think that's really important. Our schools are closed and our nurseries are closed at the moment. Unregulated play providers can still provide a service, but it's limited numbers and it's sort of very small groups of children with few adults. So there's still lots of issues around children's mental health and well-being, about sustainability of services, sort of nationally. I think that's an issue that we're going to find for the foreseeable future. So what we did as part of our response to COVID is we partnered with a group in Dundee, which is a city, I think it's the 4th largest city in Scotland. And we partnered with Scrap Antics to provide a service to children that were in the hubs. So that was children of vulnerable families and children of key worker families. And what Dundee had decided to do, they didn't open all their schools. They opened 9 schools that were open for children to come along to. There was a secondary school as well as primary schools that were open. So these were children that they were unfamiliar with their school, perhaps. It wasn't necessarily the school they actually went to. It wasn't with their friends group. It wasn't with people, the staff. The staff weren't teachers for the most part. For the most part, they were supply staff and community learning staff. So it was a very unfamiliar environment for children and actually for the adults that were there. A lot of what was said in the previous presentations was true of our findings. The staff were very nervous about having stuff in their schools, having the resources. That was part of the initial setup, was so many visits and Zoom meetings with schools saying, we will keep the equipment clean, and we had to provide resources for each school rather than the resources couldn't be moved around from school to school. The resources stayed in the school. There was time given to cleaning the resources before and after the session, and also the resources were quarantined. But we went into this knowing that it was so necessary for the children to get the play opportunities, that it was really a worthwhile thing to do. And alongside the project, we did some action research, and we have actually got a report that has some case studies in it of the growth and the sort of development and the benefits that we saw for the children in being within the schools. And what we found isn't hugely surprising. It won't be a surprise to anybody to know that actually the children were absolutely desperate to get outside and play. Part of the issue with them being in the hubs over the summertime, again, a time when they shouldn't actually have been in school anyway, was a lot of the time that they had in the school was spent inside. It's not really anybody's fault, but a lot of that time was spent sort of either watching films, doing things in a classroom, because that was, you know, it was a time that was not timetabled. They didn't have learning to do, and it was sort of, you know, what are we going to do to fill the time? So a lot of the feedback we got from the children was, this is our favourite time of the week. When we can get out and play with the stuff, it gives us the loose parts that we gave them. They were able to take ownership and to take sort of decisions for themselves, to take leadership and absolutely take some control back from where they didn't have an awful lot of control. And that was a lot of the experience that we were seeing, that actually children were able to interact with the resources in a really positive way, and that they gained confidence as, you know, we kept on going along. They gained confidence with the resources, and they gained confidence with the Scrap Antics staff, who were absolutely, most of them artists, and interested in how children interacted and went alongside the resources. And some children with, you know, behaviour issues, because obviously there were children that had, you know, all sorts of a range of needs within the hubs. We found that the children lost their anxiety, the heightened anxiety that they had, and they were able to be much more settled and play more collaboratively with their peers in a way that, you know, we would expect in normal times. And this is a really anxious time for children. So what we proved from that, which wasn't something that was unexpected, it is absolutely desirable and possible to have loose parts play in schools. And as part of the report, we also developed a toolkit, which was actually specifically about loose parts in COVID, and alongside the risk benefits assessments for, you know, just the normal risk benefits assessments that you do for pieces of equipment, we added in a COVID lens and sort of, you know, what do we do with certain materials, and recommending certain materials perhaps over things that maybe are more difficult to use or more difficult to keep clean. And I now sort of completely advocate for loose parts play in schools during this time, but I would understand that we would perhaps use different resources than we would usually use. And I think it's about getting through to the practitioners that are in schools to say it is still very worthwhile. It's so good when you see the children's mental health improve, and getting outside. We know that that's better for the children anyway, that it's so positive to do it, that really the extra work involved in cleaning the materials is absolutely worth it. But I would say we do still meet anxiety from practitioners about nervousness about having these resources in the school, and this sort of contamination that they feel may come from resources. So there is still sort of hurdles to be overcome in that. As part of that, we developed this model. So it was in the toolkit speaks more about this, about how as children increase in their confidence in their relationships and with the resources, they gain more in their play. So you can read more about that if you want. I can send on links to the resources. This then developed into the Playful Schools movement, which we're sort of starting, or sort of well on the way of starting now. We're as part of the wellbeing funding, which funded the Scrap Antics partnership, we developed some play bags, which were actually bags of resources that were actually sent out to primary one schools. Primary one, which is about a 5-year-old. It's our first entry level in school in Scotland. And these bags contained resources like a teddy, some smooth sort of sensory beads, construction items, bean bags, dice, some other things, and little wooden men that were quite flexible for play. And alongside that, we developed 11 activity cards. And these were actually gifted to primary one pupils when they returned to school. And actually over this time, there's been some schools just gifting their bags just now to support playful learning and playful learning with a family, so that parents actually had an idea of how important play was and play activities are to their children's mental health. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do it, but will try quickly just to show you. We had a lovely tweet yesterday or the day before from one of our schools partnerships. So you'll hopefully be able to see this if I share it. I'll put it on a wee bit because it is quite long. I'll put it on a wee bit. If it doesn't work, then I'll just stop. It's maybe not going to work. These are some of the resources that that we shared with the children, and they're really quite low cost resources. It just later on here, it has a lovely film of the teacher using the resources in class. It's not going to share, so I'm just going to stop there rather than keep doing that. So the resources were really well received by the teachers, and we've really had really positive feedback. And this project is actually being evaluated by an educational psychologist in Dundee, and we'll get feedback from her around the end of this session. So that's been a really positive experience for us. And it's about health and well-being. It's not about necessarily, although some of the activities do support literacy and numeracy, it's really about well-being and about supporting children to actually work through some of the anxiety that they might feel because of COVID and being, separated from their usual group of friends, or not having the same social interactions as they would normally have. Just a bit more in a sort of a rate of time, a few more things we're involved with. We're developing something that's called the Playful Schools Award, which is going to be an award that's going to be available to Scottish schools. We're still developing this with teachers, and it's going to be an individual teacher and a school level award. And there'll be 3 levels, possibly 4 levels of the award to embed playful pedagogy across the school. And we're very excited about this because the development of this has been with a group of teachers, management staff in schools, and also some experts in learning and in outdoor learning particularly. So it's been a really positive experience, and we're hoping to pilot that later this year and launch it in the new session, all being well, in August, September 2021. Sorry?
Can I just, you're not currently showing your screen. I'm not sure whether if there is a presentation, the rest of the presentation.
Oh dear, you should be seeing my screen.
Yes.
Where do you? Thank you for stopping me. Oh, then you haven't seen anything since. Okay, that's fine. Okay, just I spoke a bit about playful schools. That's where I stopped. You see that now? Yes.
Yes, we can see that we saw that one. Yeah. So we're just
so the Playful Schools Award basically is just saying that that's the levels of the award that we're developing just now, and the development that's been done with the teachers in I was going to say in Dundee, but it's actually wider in Dundee. It's teachers from around Scotland that are involved in that, and here I am now. The Playful Schools has led on to a Playful Communities project, which is funded by Inspiring Scotland. So now we're doing these really small groups in the community, similar resources, but supporting families to come out in very small groups to play with their children. And there's two parts to this. There's community sessions in parks that's happening, and there's also vulnerable family supported sessions. So that's really one family and a worker working together, because some children and some adults are really quite nervous about getting out and about in their community again. So it is something that they need support to do. So we have a experienced worker there that's working with them to support the family to come out and play together. Some other resources we're involved in, I'll just flick through these quickly. Play Standard Tools for Children and Young People, which is an assessment tool for children and young people to have their voices heard in their local and place plans. And so, yes, it's been a busy time, but we've really appreciated the opportunity to work directly with communities and to see that how important play is in these times. And it's startling to me sometimes how quickly we forget how vital some services are for families when sort of everything shuts down. And really families are feeding that it is really vital that they continue with the getting children out, getting children active, for their confidence, for the children's confidence, but also for the family dynamics and actually supporting families to remain together and to sort of be able to live together still in this sort of where everybody's sort of in their houses and quite close together. So we've really enjoyed participating in direct work this year, and so are hopeful that can continue. And yes, it will be interesting to see as schools hopefully open shortly that hopefully play can be something that is in schools now and in some schools now, and that will continue. So we'll be interested to see that journey. But thank you very much, and really happy to answer any questions about any of our resources that we have lots of on our website.
Thank you, Cherie.
Thank you.
They're impressive statistics for play over that period of time. I suppose one of the things that people will be asking is about that toolkit, and you mentioned with that, and it includes the risk benefit around the loose parts, which loose parts are available and best to use during COVID. Is that an online toolkit that people can access, or how would people sort of be able to access some of that information?
Yes, it's online. It's online, I think, as a PDF, so you can easily download that. So it sits in our learning section of our website, but I can certainly share the link for that, so that can be downloaded freely. And it's got obviously risk benefit assessments. You do your own, but it's certainly got, it's got like a template you could use and start from, certainly, to give people a starting point.
Great. And the other thing that I was going to is just the action research report with the case studies. That's also on your website?
Absolutely. Yeah. They're all on, I think they're on pages together, so you should be able to find them all together.
So certainly there's a whole lot of evidence that can be pulled together for your own in other people's communities around loose parts and how it can be used, and also sorry, how much did you hear? Or it just muted me again. I suppose I was most impressed by the fact that Scotland did not restrict children under 12 from playing outdoors. And I think when we did that study with Tim Gill, we found that there wasn't many other countries that took that approach. So they should be applauded for that.
Yeah, and we're very happy that still remains in Scotland. It's children under 12 can still play outside. So that's, it's unfortunate for 12 plus children, but I think it's a real really important thing for families, and it is something that I see just in neighbourhoods. You see children out to play, and that's hugely good, I think, for everybody's mental health to see children out.
So Anna, I will sort of refer to it's an opportunity for Anna and Cherie to sort of take some questions. If you want to put them into the chat, please feel free, so that we can actually get some of that conversation going. You might have a comment you want to make. If you feel comfortable taking your your microphone off, you might even want to say something or ask a question. And Jill from New Zealand has actually mentioned about Portugal and Scotland leading the way in this. It's really exciting to see.
Could I make a wee comment, Robin?
Yes.
I just, they were both such fantastic presentations, and I just wanted to pick up a bit on some of the challenges that you both identified. You know, obviously the anxiety about, you know, using toys and hula hoops that Anna, you mentioned, and the fact that in Scotland, although, you know, it has been allowed, we are seeing a lot of children who haven't been getting outdoors to play, as you also mentioned, Cherie, and that kind of importance for especially for vulnerable families of having that supported service. And I wondered if either of you wanted to reflect in any more detail on kind of the, you know, specific examples of how people are, how to address those real challenges, and on a kind of individual and kind of specific level, as well as a kind of national approach, because although there are things in place, there's overcoming those issues that might be quite specific to different communities and families is quite tricky, isn't it?
Hi, Ruby. I can just, I think it's a matter of keep raising awareness, and get families involved. For instance, in schools, if parents are involved in advocating for material in the playground, in the recess, it could be one point of change, because professionals are afraid because of COVID, obviously, but because if anything happens, families will go, crazy regarding school. So it's like the same. In Portugal, we had many schools saying to us previous to COVID that regarding natural elements, the sand or anything that gets children dirty is a big issue for schools, because parents do not allow children to get dirty. Okay, so it's like the same. You need to have families on your board alongside with you. So it's a matter of raising awareness that children need to play and to have access to toys and games as a way for them to recover from 6 months away from the peers, the teachers, most of them closed in homes, who do not have an outdoor space for them to play. So we need to keep this in the media, in parents groups, and also in Portugal. I don't know. Well, for kindergarten have play material with strict sanitary conditions, but they use it, thankfully. There's not much difference regarding primary education, but what we see in the guidelines, in the Portuguese guidelines, primary education is connected to higher levels of education, so with older children. And you almost forget, it's like you went kindergarten and you stopped to play in school, you know? So we need to be more, I think it's raising awareness, because, and I work for the Child Support Institute, but I'm totally sure that adults are the key, okay?
We've done some, a slightly different point to what Anna's making, but we've done some direct work with families. And I think you have to sort of start from where families are sometimes in terms of their own confidence about getting out. Maybe a slightly different, because I think some families have been so traumatized by being either they've been shielding, or they've been, you know, they've had some family that's shielding, and they've been, you know, as Anna says, not had access to an outdoor space. They can't get out very easily. They actually don't want to go out because they're nervous that they're going to catch this terrible disease that they've heard so much about. And I think for some of our direct work is actually finding out, you know, what that family is able to do, and starting from there. And it's small steps, and it might just be taking them to a place that they're comfortable with and doing, you know, just activities with them, very, you know, and then just, you know, going back with them to their, you know, taking them back to their home, and sort of doing really confidence building activities with the family, but just for them to see how important it is for their child's mental health, but for the whole family dynamic to get out. But sometimes it's very small steps.
Anna, Maynel has just reminded us about the work undertaken by IPA Turkey, Active Yasam. Are you aware of that work?
No, I wasn't.
Gizem's online. I'm not sure whether you're in a position to comment on that, Gizem, but it was around, you know, using the playground the same way that you have put games onto sort of the areas. They use that to actually create the changes in the physical activity and play. So it's a good point, Maynel. Gizem, are you online and able to make any comment on that particular one?
Hello. Yeah, I haven't heard about them before. So I was just now exploring their page and looking for their markers on the ground. So it was interesting to see, and it seems like some parallels with Portugal's work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that might be a useful contact to have between the two.
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. I will take a look at. I wasn't aware of it. I know Teresa just comments about the play-friendly schools. From them, I was aware, but I will look at the Turkey initiative, because we are also studying. We are also studying the impact of the project on children's health, on interaction, on movement. So it sounds great. Thank you for your comments.
That's terrific. In fact, that's probably a nice place to finish this particular conversation. We can always come back to it, but this particular conversation on schools, because once again, this is the beauty of us being together. We can share and collaborate in the different areas of work that people are doing. So at this particular point, I think we'll move on to hearing from the team of Lickety Split about what work they've been undertaking. And Virginia is with us, and Ruby. No, there's just me sitting here.
Yes, we're here. I will be sharing.
Terrific. I will switch myself off again.
Hi.
Is this all working?
Right. Yeah, it's all working. Oh, okay. You just want a slideshow play from start. Great.
So interesting hearing what you were saying about playgrounds, because it's so obvious, isn't it, that if children are happy in the playground with their peers, then they're much more likely to be ready to work and learn and play in the classroom. But playgrounds very often have so little attention, you know. So I think it's wonderful, the work that you're doing. I'm going to start by talking a little bit about sort of the background to Lickety Split's approach, because that'll kind of put our COVID response into context for you. So I'm Virginia Radcliffe. I'm an actor who became a children's playwright and theatre director and pedagogue in the late 90s, inspired by my own children and their contemporaries. Lickety Split is a specialist early years theatre and play charity based in Scotland. And I'm here to talk about our project Big Porridge and Play online. So Lickety Split's story play approach is rooted in children's human rights. We consult children about everything we do, using drama-led play and conversation. Our principles are that we're not children, we never underestimate children, everyone is creative given the right opportunities, theatre is simply collective play, and it's this connection between theatre and actors and as professional players and children as play experts that Lickety Split has really sort of delved into, and that the story is just the beginning. And obviously the story can be the game or anything. So our story play approach, this approach has taken us from creating plays for children to watch and interact with, to creating an experimental immersive play that children could be in alongside our actors. We called this play Lickety Leap, because the children are invited to literally leap into the story and be inside it along with the actors. Lickety Leap proved to be astonishingly effective at empowering children. And this opened the door to our understanding of the powerful connection between actors and children as play experts, and led to the development of the Lickety Split actor pedagogue. So an actor pedagogue is a skillful actor with a deep understanding about what it means to be a child. It was parents often seeing their children in a new light through watching them do Lickety Leap, who asked us, how can our children do more like this? So this gave me the idea to develop the Lickety Play Cards. These are a set of games and rhymes and songs and imaginary play activities produced on a set of A5 cards, which can be dropped in puddles, with instructions or words for how to play the games. So these are games that I've been playing in workshops with early years children for years. And they're a collection of traditional and new circle, clapping, singing, and story games. And when they're played inclusively, these games support children to develop at their own rate as they move towards increasingly rich, improvised, imaginary group play. We teach children to play these games, and then we give them the play cards to help them keep playing them. So at Porridge and Play, 10 to 15 local families, ordinarily before the COVID happened, come together to enjoy play card play as families, and then they chat around a table and have a nice meal. And then we use reflective drawing so that people can reflect on their experience and share what they feel about it and share their ideas. So the families are all invited to join Lickety Split's Children and Families Network. This is a community of families who share our children's rights ethos and value this kind of play. We were due to start a 7-week block, or a series of 7-week blocks of Big Porridge and Play in 6 Glasgow communities when the pandemic struck. Our Children and Families Network gave us an instant hotline to families severely affected by the onset of the COVID-19 lockdown. They were anxious about their children, about isolation, about education, about food, and about lack of digital connectivity. We realised that we had to try to adopt Big Porridge and Play as an online project for these families, and also try to fundraise to address their digital exclusion barriers that would stop some of them from participating. With the help of some of our Play Champion families, this is what we did. So since April 2020, Lickety Split has been delivering about 3 Porridge and Play sessions a week online to 120 families, so it's sort of nearly 80 sessions. Big Porridge and Play online brings children together. Oh, yes.
Sorry, this was where we were going to just show the little video.
Oh, yes, yeah, we'll show a little video.
A tornado! And it's coming right in front of me!
No way! It's coming to get us!
Yes! Do you like the cat? Do you know the beautiful peacock? Now you try. I can see a volcano that's got hot ice cocoa lava.
Hot cocoa lava from the volcano.
How are we gonna get down?
I'll leave it there and you can carry on.
So Big Porridge and Play Glasgow online brings groups of children together on Zoom like snails with homes on their backs, literally, to enjoy imaginary intergenerational group play based on the Lickety Play card games. The active pedagogues are sensitive facilitators who make every participant quickly feel welcome. We have a team of 3, which includes a DJ who controls the sound and spotlights participants who might be invited to become the granny or take part in a hot seating exercise or read their letter they've written to their love or describe their funky chicken animal, or leading the whole group in play. And the DJ's job is also to monitor inclusion and make sure that every child gets their fair share of one-to-one attention and opportunities to influence a game or to feature their ideas or their drawing or their costume or their character. The lead actor pedagogue is the main host or session facilitator, and both are supported by the second actor pedagogue, or we call them the second AP. So Big Porridge and Play online offers children a repertoire and an understanding of how to manage thrilling, limitless, satisfying group play. Children learn that in our imaginations, we can be anyone, go anywhere, and do anything. Imagining and learning and sharing. Children learn about the pleasure of reciprocity in play. Circles are great when you can see everyone and everyone can see you. Games are best when everyone's in the game. Although on Zoom, the circle is a block of windows in gallery view like this. And they learn that everyone has something valuable to bring to the game. These are life skills. The games often begin with flying balloons, where we meet in the sky high above our city and explore the world. And they usually end with a magic ball adventure, a huge and increasingly amazing group improvisation. This is relational play facilitated by actor pedagogues, which is rooted in children's human rights. The actor pedagogues communicate their belief in every participant. They are non-judgmental and scrupulously fair. They never inadvertently communicate any preference or higher level of enthusiasm for any child's contribution to the game. We believe that everyone can and wants to and will play with us, and has equally great ideas to bring to the group. We're not presumptuous, but we behave as if we're already friends. This has enabled these adult-led, child-centered play sessions to become increasingly rich, child-led, and hugely popular. She needs, oh yes, my daughter is so engrossed, she needs her session every Wednesday. Before she was shy, but now she can stand up before the crowd. That's a mum of 3 and 6-year-olds in Glasgow. Playing together from home, 30, 60, even 90 children can go on collective imaginary adventures. It's really interesting. They go to real places and witness extraordinary things, and they go to extraordinary places to do ordinary things. The nature of the imagination children bring to these sessions is truly theirs. It rarely includes contemporary superheroes. We might go to Disney World and go on a roller coaster together in our imaginations, but we never meet a film or TV cult character. We are as likely to climb inside a fiery planet or a crystal cave as to cook sausages on an ice floe with an alien. Children turn ordinary clothes and household objects into fantastic dressing up costumes, creating wild and amazing characters and stories and drama. Some children cannot contain themselves, as you saw. Help, help, I'm being carried away by a tornado, shouts one, and the group all reach in through their screens to rescue him. Actor pedagogues increasingly pass the baton to participants with the DJ using a mixture of spotlighting and gallery view to foster a rich collective experience. It's not at all unusual to see a formerly shy 5-year-old leading 60 other children in Mr. Wolf. All we need to play like this is each other. The majority of our pandemic families, who are now our friends, are refugees and asylum seekers. These are bold pioneers who have overcome the odds to get their children to Scotland, who are willing to try anything to make them feel happy and connected. Lacking family in Scotland, they have made a family of families with Lickety Spit. A recent development of this work are child consultations called Have Your Say Through Play, in relation to the impending incorporation of the United Nations Convention for the Rights of the Child in Scotland, which obviously is a really exciting development for us. And we've found opportunities to adapt our play sessions in order to support children to talk about their rights and educate adults about the value of play and how to listen and engage with children in a meaningful way. And some of these are on our website if people were interested to have a look. We also created a series of activity films, game demonstrations, guides for children to help them to understand the pandemic with very simple ideas of games and things that they could play with absolutely nothing in order to structure their day. We made some activity films with our actor pedagogues called Exploring with Jack, Cooking with Taz, and Making with Iona. And these prompted a series of child-created videos in response, which we've called Over to You. So these include cooking with Bimbo and Toby, showing how to make coconut rice, and exploring with Zainab, who's one of our older participants, who's a 15-year-old asylum seeker, who introduces us to Tanzania and Nigeria, having worked out how to use green screen on her Lickety tablet. And she runs along a motorway and staggers at the side of an African elephant. In our most recent films, our actor pedagogues have been inspiring imaginary play in nature outside. And we're obviously really encouraging children to go outside as much as possible. And that fits in very well with our encouraging them that they don't need anything in order to be able to play apart from each other. So Big Porridge and Play Online nurtures a child-centered, children's rights-based play culture within families and an understanding that everyone loves to play like this. This is play where children are the experts and can develop real agency in an intergenerational context. Moreover, it literally demonstrates that everyone is creative and that we all flourish when we know that we're valued and included. So we feel really lucky. We often say to families and professionals that if you work or live with children, you have an opportunity to reconnect with your own playfulness, and that's something that we all need, whatever our age is. And working like this, children have really been responsible for the emergence of this work. We learn from children all the time. And our approach and methodology is rooted in what we've learned from them. It's not as easy as it looks to facilitate work like this. And it takes time to develop the skills of the actor pedagogue, who are really, really great social facilitators who can work with absolutely everybody. But these are life skills that we think that can be useful for anyone working with children and for parents. And we already train parents as play champions and we're really keen to share this approach and methodology as widely as we can. In fact, we're about to start working with Women's Aid to train their workers to use this approach to help to rebuild relationships between mothers and children who've experienced trauma. So we're really excited about our latest project, which is called Story Play City, which we're doing in Glasgow, which aims to embed this play and this approach across Glasgow. And we were very delighted to be funded to try to start a play revolution. And we're a very small company, and this is still quite a small project, but we're very hopeful that we can find lots of colleagues and partners to help galvanise a movement in Glasgow where we can really spread these ideas, because we're working with children in schools and in communities, and with families and with professionals, and all of them are recognising that this approach works and is really fun and can be used to support all sorts of development for children. Story play reminds adults that we all need what children need, which is something that we say to each other a lot. And that as well as being left on their own to play, children should be seen and heard and played with. So thank you very much. I'm very happy to answer any questions once we've heard from the next person. Thanks.
Thank you, Virginia. There was a quote there that an 8-year-old said they felt excited and energized. And I've got to say, just getting those little clips, I felt excited and energized. I want to play a game. So we might remember that for an icebreaker.
Yeah, I'm slightly sorry I didn't. When you said we could have had slightly longer than 15 minutes, I thought, I could have played a game.
I might be back in touch with you about that. So, okay, we will hand over, but thank you, as I say, Virginia, thank you so much. And so now we're going our last presentation for the evening. And I think we've got a few people, but Nicole, is Mandavi and Alia here to present?
Yeah, they're here, Robin. Yeah.
Right. Okay, Nicole, I'll hand over to you.
Yeah. So hi, I'm Nicole, and I'm with a child rights organization called Leher from India. And you know, when India went into lockdown, we went into lockdown at very short notice, like literally in a manner of hours. And we're a very large country with a very diverse population across the whole socioeconomic spectrum. And there was confusion, there was chaos, and in the middle of all of this, and there was also a lot of, I'm sure all of you read about the reverse migration that took place in India, where a lot of the poor daily wage earners, you know, in great distress, had to travel back home, many of them even on foot. And when this took place, civil society, that's NGOs, kind of pulled in with government efforts to ensure that food and things like that, you know, basic essentials for families to survive were reaching communities and reaching families. But somewhere we felt, you know, like, what were children doing in all of this? We have very large sections of our population that are low income, live in very cramped, small, tiny urban household units. What were those children doing while their parents, on the other hand, were figuring out survival and food and like basic essentials to keep themselves safe and to keep themselves fed and living? What were children doing? They couldn't go out of their homes. Their homes were very tiny. And we were just wondering what we could do to help them just have some fun, help them know that there's people who think about them and who care. And Leher was extremely fortunate. What could we do to help them stay curious, to exercise their imaginations, and just have some fun and a good laugh while they were at it in this extremely scary, uncertain, complex time when they were homebound in very, very tiny, cramped homes. Leher was extremely lucky to have in our horizon our friends in Mando and Alia. If you could please turn your cameras on, Mandavi Menon and Alia Khan, who came on board to put together for us a storytelling channel called Appalam Chalam, where they actually, through their network of friends, and both Mando and Alia come from the creative community. They are writers, filmmakers, they do like a number of things, design. They came together and actually dug deep into their social networks to actually, I'm going to attempt to say this, Mando, you can correct me when I hand over to you, to kind of crowd gather people to contribute formative stories for children. Leher's role, while they put the stories and the videos together, Leher's role was to mobilize a network through WhatsApp, through our NGOs, through residential care institutions, to get these stories to reach children and their families. And I'm going to hand over to Madhavi Menon and Alia Khan to take us through the presentation and to talk us through what we did. Thank you. Mando, over to you.
Hi, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here, and all the initiatives before this were so amazing. We're honored to be sharing space, honestly. And I'm just going to quickly share screen. Can everyone see the presentation?
Yes, we can.
Amazing, thank you. So I think Nicole kind of prefaced that beautifully. It really, Appalam Chappalam came together so quickly, it could only have been fated, I think. Like she said, the lockdown happened so suddenly in the country. A lot of people were left feeling extremely helpless, not just those who had no access to amenities, etc., but even the people like us who were stuck in our homes, feeling unable to really help in a meaningful way. And when we thought of this opportunity to kind of build something that solved both these problems in some way, and we wanted to create a space that, what we call it is, we wanted to have a storytelling channel that introduced a measure of pleasure to young listeners at home. And especially our focus was on urban underprivileged children, because like Nicole said, the living conditions are extremely challenging. And to be in lockdown within that space, how do we think about play when physical space is limited? And that was sort of what we went in, hoping to introduce imagination and allowing children who have that natural ability anyway to find ways to play. They're so creative about that, and have them kind of activate that in their own minds. And that's sort of where Appalam Chappalam was born from. So what we call it is a small storytelling initiative, which was born out of the nationwide lockdown. It was an incubation for just 10 days, which I think is genuinely testament to, as Nicole said, we drew from our own creative communities essentially to come together and help us to contribute in a way that where the currency is not just money, because I think people were feeling detached from that as well. You don't know, I think when you're able to contribute from your own time and your own sort of self, it can be a more meaningful exchange. And that's what we wanted the children to feel, that everyone has not forgotten and we are all still one community who cares about childhood. So what we did is, as we say over here, that Appalam Chappalam is made up of citizens who care. Here is our monkey mascot, who we are very fond of, and our community has become quite amused by his antics over time. He acts as a mouthpiece for the culture of play and leisure and imagination that we want to bring back into into the world, I guess, but India, starting with India. And this is his backstory, which we're happy to share with you later, but since we have limited time, I won't get into it. So let's go to the next. We had two major distribution channels. Given that we were in lockdown and we no longer had physical access, this entire exercise was a digital one. We have one YouTube channel and one Instagram. The YouTube is what we use to actually reach the children directly. So Leher was absolutely incredible over here, and it would have been impossible to do something of this scale without them, where they tapped into their networks across, their many years of working in the field, so that the actual community workers who had access to the different spaces in both Bombay and Delhi is where we started our focus, but it's grown much beyond that. We needed parents to have trust that this channel was a safe and well, I wouldn't say productive, but a channel that their children could truly watch and gain something from, and to encourage them to let their children access, because these are single, these are single mobile, if at all there is a laptop, which is rare. these are single screen kind of homes. So to even share that screen time between the adults and the children in the house, and why that was important, that's the role that these community and field workers played. And allowed us to reach them. On Instagram, the reason we built it out over there, even though that doesn't go directly to the children, was we were interested through Appalam Chappalam to introduce what so many of you all have been speaking about over here today, which is the right to play, to leisure, to imagination for children. And we wanted to introduce that kind of thinking to adults and citizens as well. So this was a way to also attract more contributors to share stories from their own childhood memories. The focus of Appalam Chappalam was quite two-pronged in the sense that we wanted this storytelling to reach children, and it also acts as a repository of regional literature, which has never existed in the country before. And it keeps the art of oral storytelling, which is a rich tradition in India, but has been dying out over the years. And we wanted to kind of celebrate all the storytellers that we have in our own homes and families, the grandmothers and the aunts and the uncles and the older cousins, etc., which is the kind of culture that India comes from. And it allowed us to kind of tap into a huge network of people, because everybody has a story that they remember their own family members telling them while they were growing up. And to be able to kind of share these intimate stories from our own homes is now creating access to stories that otherwise have not been translated into actual written form, or have never really been, they haven't been archived like that. So this is a real opportunity to do that as well, and show and introduce children to different regions' stories, which has been a very, very interesting part of this project, because not everyone really understands how diverse India can feel and be. When you go from one state to the other, you might as well be going to a different country. It's a different language. It's a different set of traditions, priorities, etc. So it's really nice to see that exchange happen because the platform is multilingual. So moving on to, this is what we call the Appalam Chappalam alphabet, which is essentially a dictionary of our values. We, so A is for, don't worry, it doesn't go all the way to Z. It will be quick. But A is for Apni Apni Almari Se, which translates to from our own cupboards. So like I said, this is a place where we want people to really celebrate and bring out the stories from their own homes, regional and intimate stories that are now reaching a much wider audience. B is for Bachpan Ki Yadein, which again, it translates to memories from childhood. Our channel is filled over here, like we say, with nanas and nanis, abbus and ammis, chachas and chachis. These are different family members in Hindi. And what we wanted to do is we wanted to evoke these memories from people's own childhoods to reconnect them with the idea and the importance of imagination and play in childhood, which, as you'll see later, has actually been very successful, and we're quite proud of that. C is for collaboration. Of course, I'm relieved to see that everything is not in Hindi. So C is for collaboration, where this is a beautiful line that actually Leher gave us that we love, and we always tell people. We like to say, and it is completely true, that Appalam Chappalam is owned by none, yet it belongs to all of us. We really have attempted to create a community of people who are curious, and they want to improve childhood, improve the quality, and beyond just always thinking about basic survival needs being met, which is what often happens in a country like India. We wanted that to expand to also include the right to play, to leisure, to imagination, which every child should have. D is for diversity. This has again been a really wonderful, we didn't even have to work to make this happen, because it really doesn't matter that people have come from different backgrounds or speak different languages or have different values. The thing that has tied everyone together is, the love for good stories and wanting to contribute in a way that anybody really can. It's not difficult to remember a story from your own childhood. Take a phone, record yourself at home, which everyone became very, very good at doing over the last 1 year, I'm sure. And yeah, that's what the D for diversity is about. F is for Fables and Folklore. Madan Mohan, who's a monkey mascot. We like to say that he carries his bag full of folk tales and nonsensical rhyme, pioneering Urdu literature, family fables. We have everything from, super lovely Konkani folklore, which, someone animated, to a Marwari folk tale. These are all small regional communities in India that even we have never had access to before. So it's truly been a pleasure to be able to distribute that out more widely. And a large part of what we're doing here is the preservation of that and introducing children in India to as wide an array of that as we possibly can in this period and further. H is for Haste Khelte, which means it literally translates to laughing and playing, but what the sentiment is really to do everything with fun. And that really is the way that everyone who has worked on Appalam Chappalam, everyone who has contributed, the children and how they're receiving it, that is the only emotion that we bring to the table when we're doing this. It's a joy to work on, and it's a joy to to actually view the videos that people put together. The creativity has been unprecedented, and we're really grateful for that. And like we say here, the best part is both the children and the storytellers should get to enjoy the process, and that is what has been happening. I is for imagination, which we've discussed quite a lot, so I won't get into it too much. But especially since this was born out of lockdown, we wanted children to remember and to always feel that no matter our outside circumstances, our imagination allows us to travel. And that's what these stories are. It's we call them traveling stories for children for this reason. We wanted them to feel that no matter what, we can always come up with ways to play, even with the limitations that we sometimes have. And as long as we carry that spirit with us, we will sort of be able to overcome. But of course, outdoor play is not to be forgotten. And we look forward to when all our children can get back to be doing that as well. K is for Katha Kissa, which is really about, it means stories and performing stories. So that's about how we're doing our bit to preserve India's culture of oral storytelling and bringing in more citizen involvement in the activity of getting children to play and involve themselves in leisure and imagination exercises. The numbers bit, to be honest, we actually far prefer to focus on qualitative data than quantitative, but it is nice to see the kind of interaction and the reach that Appalam has been able to create completely organically. And that, I think, is testament to the fact that people genuinely do want to be of service to the idea of children having, having that ability to tap into their imagination. So we launched on the 21st of April. And after just 10 days in incubation, with many of Alia and my friends sort of chipping in like amazing ways, creating a logo, here's an animation, here's this, everyone sort of coming together to put this channel together. And these numbers are no longer so accurate because we made this a while ago, but we've had now, I would say, over 70 contributors, and we're close to 110 videos. Alia can correct me a bit later if I'm wrong on that. And the videos have been watched over 200,000 times across both the platforms, again, completely organically. Leher and hopefully Nicole will tell you all like a little bit about that after. They've roped in some of the most amazing organizations and community leaders to work with us on the distribution and really getting this idea out there, because I do think that Appalam is also building the culture of getting people to think about play and storytelling and imagination at all. And these organizations include juvenile remand homes, where we've gotten some of the most wonderful feedback, which we will share with you later. And Appalam in full color, we're going to end with this, so I'm going to skip this this little bit, but I would like for you all to see at least one video. And our contributor profile is made up of an extremely diverse community. We have, like we said, grandpas and teachers and caretakers and students. We have a huge artist community. So there truly has been some incredibly creative video and storytelling that people have done from the confines of their own home. And we continue to be very grateful for that. The audience as well has stopped it's become more challenging to categorize because, of course, it includes children from all backgrounds now. And we have often, even on Instagram, a lot of parents and caretakers writing to us saying that they're really enjoying Appalam Chappalam storytelling because it's difficult to introduce children to regional literature and storytelling otherwise. And of course, we have the entire community that Leher has built out of underprivileged children in urban areas. But over and above that, we have adults, which has led us to believe that play should not be limited to age, and the amount of sort of joy that they have had reconnecting with their childhood. And it's genuinely made people care about this time of life again, which I think has been, a wonderful byproduct of the exercise. And we have some great feedback from children, which especially from the childcare facilities that Leher partnered with, like Salam Balak Trust and Save the Children India. The children actually started creating their own stories, and some of them drew, and we have videos as well, but unfortunately we couldn't put it into this format, where they've created little, I think it was out of Play-Doh, and they have these little models and they've reenacted and had little play storytelling, and they've done all of this in the middle of lockdown. So just being introduced to storytelling like this, where people are being so involved in how they tell the story, I think is inspiring young people to want to be able to partake in that exercise themselves, and it's showing in the kind of expression of creativity that's happening. And audience feedback, these are the adults, of course. You can read some of the comments on the side, which I think has really kept us going in many ways, because lockdown was hard on everybody. And we love especially the people who go back to telling us that, oh, my dadi or my grandmother used to tell me the story in this language when I was young. I never knew that anybody else had ever heard it. I thought it was just her own. And then people are sort of finding out that these are actually community stories, what they thought were only in their own household and made up specifically for them. So it's quite wonderful. And many of our contributors have actually tweaked old stories that their grandparents have told them to sort of adapt them to a more contemporary format. And they've drawn and they've painted and they've changed things up, which also I think that evolution has been quite beautiful to see. And finally, we tried to work with as many people as we could, and we've been very lucky that I think a lot of people enjoyed the initiative enough to reach out and actually see how we can work together. So one is this wonderful publishing house called Toolkit, which is a pioneering multilingual publishing house, and they create books in over 9 languages. So we felt early on in lockdown, there was a really great poem written by a children's book author from India called Go Away Coronavirus, that was written to sort of help children understand what is happening around them. Since she wrote it in English, we did our best to get it translated and performed in 3 to 4 different languages by famous sort of performers, including, these may not be names that you recognize, but in India, they are definitely very well known. And that allowed us to kind of get this really beautiful poem and rendition out to many, many more children who for whom English may not be the first language. So that's one of them. And then we have Kitab Khanna, which is a boutique bookstore. And more recently, which we don't have on this presentation, but we've done this great collaboration with Alia's college when she's not in college anymore, but it's called Sophia College, and they have these students who are focusing and learning media. So they have actually worked with us, and the entire batch has done individual videos for the Appalam Chappalam platform. And we hope to work with many more educational and media institutions like that, where both sides get to explore the fun of storytelling and play and imagination. So we're really enjoying that and working to make many more such collaborations happen. We got over 35 videos from the students, and we'll give you the links to see our channels, but I think you would enjoy their storytelling as well. The students have really amazed us. We've also done some really, really cute original content. We tried to Indianize famous children's literature like Matilda, which everyone knows. Roald Dahl is a huge inspiration for Alia and me. So these are sort of these illustrations that Alia actually created, and we have backstories where Matilda is now a little Indian girl from Madhya Pradesh. and we contextualized all of it. So we've done a few activities like that I think the audiences have really enjoyed as well. And we have tried to introduce a much more diverse way of thinking when Pride Month was happening, we celebrated International Queer Literature for Children. We are doing our best to introduce our audiences to a far wider sort of approach to storytelling for children. And we have been very lucky to, I think, capture the imaginations of a lot of press and the country, and that's allowed us to grow in a way that we couldn't have really predicted. So these are just some of the leading publications here who did cover the initiative. And we won't really fully get into this, but I think we are going to end by showing you one video. Just a minute.
Mando, you'll play it?
Yeah, I'm going to play it. And after that, we'll just have Alia tell you one anecdote about her own grandmother who did a story for us, because it's been a really wonderful thing to see how play has translated for the elderly as well in this case. And we'll have her take you through that anecdote right after actually, Alia, would you like to go first? And you can speak about Kumi Dadi, and then I'll play the video.
Sure. So I hope I'm audible. So as Mando has mentioned already, this initially, of course, was an initiative for children, but it became bigger than that. We realized that once we started asking our communities and people within our circles to contribute, they were also enjoying themselves just as much as the children were enjoying the results of it. So one of them, I reached out to my own grandmom who lives in Delhi, and she used to work at the All India Radio. She was a radio jockey many, many years ago. Of course, she's much older now. So she hasn't done this in a while. She moved into the house and she stopped working for various reasons. And when I reached out to her to do this, after we posted the video, everyone loved her. But additionally, I spoke to her daughter and granddaughter as well, who's also my cousin. And both of them said that, you know, there was a spark that she had while she was working at the All India Radio that they sort of had forgotten still existed, and they saw that again when she did this video for us. So she has become a crowd favorite as well, and she has been doing more videos for us and will continue to do more. So that's just one, and we've had all sorts of people say good things about how it's been a pleasurable experience for adults as much as it has been for children.
Amazing. I will play the video now for you. Can everyone see it?
Yes, we can.
Hi, my name is Jerry Pinto. I write books. I write other things as well. I write books for children and I write poetry. So I thought what I'd do today is I'd read you a poem that I wrote about the situation in which we all find ourselves, which is we're all locked up at home. My home sweet home isn't large at all. In fact, I have to say it is rather small. It's a one-room kitchen in a chawl, family members, 5 in all. Pa and Ma and my 2 sisters, who are sometimes cute, but sometimes blisters. And with this virus in the city, everyone's at home, and that's a pity. Because we can get a little cramped, and our spirits can get a little damped. So when I want some space, I look inside the pages of a book. Ever since I met Brer Rabbit, I developed a reading habit. I went with Cinderella to the ball and howled at the moon with the blue jackal. In the nights, I kept the light on. I've read a lot more Enid Blyton actually, but Blyton. We do these things in poetry. We shouldn't, but hey, come on. It's a poem, it's a fun poem. So, in the nights I kept the light on. I've read a lot more Enid Blyton. With Rudyard Kipling, I lived through blizzards. And with Harry Potter, I fought dark wizards. With Roald Dahl, I encountered witches. Gerald Durrell kept me in stitches. What can you do with books? What can't you do with books? I can dream up computers like Charles Babbage. I can learn from a farmer how to grow cabbage. I can join a space mission and fly to Mars, or just get there on my superpowers. I can learn to cook from old recipes. I can hunt with lions. I can fly with bees. And once a book's over, once it's been read, I can still find bits inside my head. So I don't need a house that's big and grand, so long as a book is close to hand. When this is over, I'll make merry and go get books from the library. I know, merry, library, light on, shouldn't do like that. Huh? But what to do? Sometimes these things happen when you're sitting at home and the only person who's listening to you is yourself. Hey, stay safe, stay at home, listen to your parents from time to time, most of the time at least. They're trying to keep you safe. And read a lot more. Because, okay, I'll tell you what, if you're reading, what you're doing actually is sowing seeds inside your brain. Okay? And right now, nothing will happen. But 10 years from now, 20 years from now, all those seeds will grow into a forest of ideas. And when you need an idea, something to do, something to think, something to write, something to make, something to invent, you won't have to go outside. You'll just walk through your own head, through your forest of ideas, and you'll be able to pluck the fruit that are growing there. So read a lot and try to keep your spirits up. Hey, stay safe.
Okay, so we love Jerry. We chose him specifically because it was in English, and I hope that you do all check out some of the other languages as well. We'll be happy to share a list with you all afterwards, but thank you so much. That's what we had to share today, and Alia, Nicole, and I are very grateful for you all sharing this space with us.
Thank you. Thank you. And we in turn are very grateful that you have been here to share with us. I think, you know, as Maynell said in one of his comments tonight, you know, that you forget the power of a good story, and you know, it's just wonderful to see that level of collaboration. And Teresa in her comments mentions about, you know, that catalyst that we're seeing of people during COVID actually being drawn together and collaborating more. And I think we've seen that in all the examples tonight, that collaboration and where it's taken us. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Does anybody have any further questions they'd like to ask of either Lickety Split or Appalum Chapalum? Do I say it right?
Robin, if I can just make a comment on Scotland's project. Virginia, I would like to thank you and Ruby for sharing this project, because I think we were very suspicious of how things like play sessions will work on online environments. And we all, well, in my team, we always say it's not the same, and it isn't the same, but you can, with this media mediation, you can achieve also great things. So you really inspired us to try to do something. And in Portugal, children will have to be at home learning. So maybe we can create something for, alongside with the most formal learning process, we can do a break and all together in the classroom have moments like this one. So I'm sure, thank you, because you showed us this power that the online also has to play.
Well, you're welcome. I mean, it is extraordinary. It is like having great big parties. You know, our active pedagogues are exhausted because they have to work incredibly hard to make sure that they remember, you know, they have people's names. And it's very interesting that the importance that we've actually, we had huge sessions on Saturday. I think one session we had 100 families, and of course you can't be inclusive when you have those sort of numbers. So we're spreading people out more, because the feedback from the children is that that's absolutely key. And although we have experimented, and we did a session for the Scottish Government where we did a play session without the interaction, I think if anybody has ever had the interaction, they'll never want that, you know, because it is that thing about actually somebody really seeing you and wanting to hear what you've got to say. And so, yeah, we recommend big dressing up, putting music on, letting children lead each other in dancing, and collective story making. Yeah, I think the children that we work with would absolutely love your project, Mandovi, as well. Yeah, well, and Anna and all of them. Yeah, it's really exciting to hear about everybody's work and think about connections we could make, because I think there's still a job, but we recognise that there's a kind of, certainly in Scotland, there's a cultural shift that needs to happen. So that things that sound kind of a bit funky, like lickety spit, and I'm gonna say your name wrong if I say it. Actually, you know, they come from children, and children's things are not neatly laid out. You know, things that you progress and sort of create. You know, it's much more organic and much more full of whimsy and imagination, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Thank you. We fully agree, and we'd love to be in touch afterwards.
Oh, great.
Have we got any other comments that people would like to make or questions? No? Well, look, I probably should say, as we draw this evening, or well, for me it's an evening, for many of you it's morning, as we sort of close on the session, Anna and Cherie, you certainly inspired us with your approaches to schools and how you've approached, and what you're doing is, whilst you were responding to COVID, there is that real potential, like with the Playful Schools project that was mentioned, to actually leave a very lasting legacy across all schools. And certainly what we've heard from the team from Lickety Split and Appalum Chapalum, I'm confused, tonight, is about that power of digital transformation. And we often hear about people speaking about digital transformation in the corporate world, but what we're seeing is how you've adapted it to ensure children still have the right to play. So I know that from my point of view, I'm quite feeling very inspired by what I've heard. It's like a lot to think about. It's like the webinar last week. It was hours before I went to bed because I was still processing everything I've heard. But it's been a wonderful conversation. So thank you for joining us and sharing your stories and sharing them so eloquently. One of the messages I would probably say as we're winding up this evening is that we will be back next week, next Wednesday, and we're going to be doing Play in the Community. And for those of you who were inspired by this idea of digital transformation, on February the 24th, the session is focusing on digital age and play in the digital age. So it will sort of build on the work that we've heard tonight. So we've got two great sessions coming up that we hope that you'll all come back for. And I have got an instruction for you between now and next week. I'm going to take a rule out of the Appalum Chapalum dictionary under H, and that is to do everything with fun. So that's what we all have to do for the rest of it until next Wednesday when we meet again, to do everything with fun. And I look forward to joining you again and bringing all the membership together in this way. We have had now 68 members on tonight. So please tell people about the seminars, bring them along. And if you're not already a member, look, aren't we really nice people? And aren't the people so talented? You want to be part of this organisation because we've got the most talented members around. So I look forward to talking again to you next week. And until then, remember, do everything with fun.